Yes, and that's what's going to happen right now.
Yeah.
You would admit, Peter, he's one of the greats.
Well, I am legitimately a big fan. And as you guys know, I am not someone's terrible at play-by-play.
Yeah, right. Friends of mine.
Even friends of yours. This guy here, fantastic.
Jon Sciambi and Doug Glanville will have the call of the NLDS, Mets, and the Phillies for the rest of the series and the entire NLCS on ESPN Radio. And then Boog, year in a row, is going to serve as the voice of the World Series on ESPN Radio. A lot on his plate. And he really wanted to, add this on his plate. Do a radio show, yeah. Hi, Boog. How you doing?
What's up, guys?
How are you?
I'm good. It's a pleasure to.
Are you nervous? Big game, I know. Big game, you get nervous. Do you get nervous?
Oh, I thought you meant nervous.
No, that you have no respect for me. So.
Well, why would you say that?
That can't be true.
Well, he's not denying it.
He did not deny it.
No, it's very quiet.
Very, very quiet. Yeah.
I'm excited for this one. It'll be a blast. I'm excited to see what Citi Field will be like tonight. My guess is that it should be pretty charged up.
That's exactly what I was most stoked about, is what does it feel like tonight? Because, Don, you spoke about this a lot yesterday. 16 days is an incredible amount of time for a team to be away from home. And then have all these amazing things happen. It'll be special in there, man.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I mean, look, people talk about old Yankee Stadium, but I don't know that everybody remembers how much Shea used to rock. And I think, this place likely will have an ability, if, the Mets were able to put together a few years in the playoffs, to at least resemble that a little bit. But, old Shea was that place loud. And, they've obviously gotten some postseason games in here, but this is a passionate fan base, and I think that they're gonna be loud tonight.
Is Carlos Mendoza a little regretful? I don't know if he would admit it, Boog, but is he a little regretful going to Diaz as early as he did, and will he continue to do that? Does he plan to continue to do that? Because I understand wanting to get the biggest outs, but you have to have people after him to get the other outs. So what's the plan with Diaz?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the issue becomes, how much is he available for? So I don't think he for, that amount of pitches every single game. So he's probably a great. Look, I would tell you this, that if it's the 7th and the 8th, I personally will not have a problem with him utilizing Diaz to get the Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Castellanos grouping, and he won't do it this way, and then leave the 9th to someone else if it's lower leverage bats as it relates to quality of opposition. But I think that it starts with how many pitches is he available for, and that's how aggressive he'll be.
Now, they did move the fences in at Citi Field, but it's still, relatively speaking, cavernous compared to Citizens Bank and some of the other buildings around Major League Baseball. Does that change the game at all for these players, that the home run is not as easy as it would be, say, in Philadelphia?
I don't think so. It's a good question. I don't know that they would admit it regardless. Like, one of the things that's so funny is, you look at the Mets when they won that game 1 against the Brewers. It was the first game that they had won without hitting a homer since '6. I talked with David Stearns before Game 2, and he said, look, despite what has taken place, if we are going to continue to win, more than likely, we're going to have to hit some homers. And even though Citizens Bank Park's an interesting place, because while good home run hitters park, a great offensive park. It's sort of slightly above average as an offensive park. And you're right in terms of the home run is much a factor here, but I would still anticipate, if you were to make me guess, Don, I think that these 2 games likely are going to turn on a ball going over the fence.
You know, I'm also curious to see who has momentum. And the old saying in baseball, momentum goes only as far as the next day's starting pitcher. So the Phillies have a walk-off win, but you could also make the case, Boog, that the Mets had momentum because, again, they came back, an unlikely comeback with the home run by Vientos. Just in talking to the managers today and some of the players, who do you sense is more confident coming into this Game 3?
I don't buy into that stuff that much. Tendency to be really agnostic on it. So I think we could say that the Mets have more momentum, and they do until Schwarber hits one 7,000 feet to start the game. And we could say the Phillies have momentum until Lindor leads with a home run, and then it totally changes. So I think that once the game starts, it's its own thing. In terms of both teams seem loose and fine. I don't get the sense that the Phillies, are nervous or anything along those lines. But I don't subscribe to that as much.
Jon Smoltz brought this up during the Padre-Dodger series. I'm fascinated by it, and as a baseball savant like you, I wonder how you feel about it. Maybe not today because you've got two really good pitchers on the mound, but all these managers are so afraid to have a starting pitcher go a third time through the order, right?
Yeah.
But in a playoff series, they've got no problem going to the bullpen every game. Isn't it kind of the same thing? You're asking guys coming out of the bullpen to face the same guys in the series over and over and over and over again. Want a starting pitcher to go a third time through the order?
The answer is yes, it is the same thing. I would say that in a shorter series, it has an opportunity to play itself out not as much. In a best of seven, it absolutely does. Multiple looks at a reliever in a short period of time is effectively the same thing. Ben Lindbergh wrote a piece on it in The Ringer, if you guys want to Google it, from a year or two ago, where it shows a similar type result. So you do have a choice to make. Now, again, these are flame-throwing relievers by and large, and they're going max effort. The one part about the third time through the order penalty, this is not new. This has always been so. Go back to your dad's favorite pitcher, and it's the case. They just didn't act on it, and they didn't have the quality of reliever available in the pen. I mean, when I started doing this job, they were more failed starters down there. Now they weaponize these guys, so it is different. But, Don, I think your point is spot on. I think it plays out more in a 7-game series where teams are likely to get, 4 looks at a single reliever guy, but you give a good hitter, 4 separate looks, and eventually they're going to get him.
And let's not forget, guys, even like in the Yankee-Royals series, those two teams just played each other at the end of the regular season. Mets had a 4-game series with Philadelphia just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, they're very well acquainted with those arms coming out of the pen, especially the Diaz.
Yeah, there's no question. And so what do you do about it? I would tell you this. I don't think with the way that starters are trained these days that the answer is the starter. I mean, Michael, you talk to managers. I've had plenty of managers tell me, talking about starting pitcher X, I just want him to go out there and throw as hard as he can for as long as he can. This isn't, back in the day where they're pacing themselves for a 3 to 4 act play. It's pedal to the metal. So it's just different now, and these guys can run out of gas. And then besides the fatigue factor, there's also the exposure factor.
Jon Sciambi is our guest. He's calling the play-by-play Mets-Phillies Game 3 right
Jon
here.
Sciambi.
Jon Sciambi, thank you.
No problem.
What does he prefer? Why don't you ask him?
What do you prefer, Mr. Sciambi? Is it Boog or John?
I feel like you John more. I like being...
Well, I hate nicknames because I'm the guy who calls Bucky Dent Russell. I call Yogi Lawrence. I just don't like nicknames.
You call Magic Irvin.
Yeah, that's just how I roll.
That feels a little much. That feels a little look at me-ish.
Right? Well, that's Michael K.
Are you familiar with my work?
Yeah, right.
I am familiar with your work. Sorry about that.
So, I mean, we are both, all kidding aside, we're both lucky that we get to do something in a sport that we absolutely adore. So, my question to you, doing this series, who's taking your breath away more, Lindor or... I
can't do it. Let's start with this. give Bryce Harper his flowers. Statistically, Bryce Harper is in a place right now, when you put the minimum at 200 plate appearances, the argument very easily can be made that Bryce Harper is the greatest postseason player ever.
Yeah.
Ever. He's been that good. Lindor, I think even in Game 3 we didn't talk about it enough. He made like 5 plays going in different directions, in, to his left, to the right. Then, even though he hasn't hit really, he gets on base. Mm-hmm. He can run the bases. I mean, what I love is that there is a lead compelling team that here's their star, and they both are playing phenomenal. So, I mean, look, if I had to pick one, I guess I would lean Harper because of the home run. They're both super compelling. That's one of the things that's so much fun. We love stories, and in this case, I feel like the story's true. You know what I mean? Where you face the Phillies, don't let Harper beat you. You face the Mets, don't let Lindor beat you.
And the way, I'm not saying like it's conceit, but he just seems to handle the moment. If you didn't know any better, you'd think he'd have a few rings. Like, he just seems so calm in some of these situations.
Yeah, it was neat. David Stearns told me a little story about going up to Lindor after Game 3 and him about what were you going to do with Turang up there, and Lindor went through this whole litany of an explanation in terms of, if it's soft and in, I'm going to do this. If it's to my right, I'm going to running. Like, if I have to go to my backhand, I'm going to do this. Like, he'd already processed things. Insight into why he's able to go out there and play like he has no care in the world, because he is processing. His processor works at a really speed, and he's just ready for everything.
So before we let Joe run this past you, Don. Mm-hmm. So
I'd like you to call me Boog, actually.
All right, please. Apologies.
When I was in Chicago when the Yankees played the Cubs, Boog and I had dinner plans, and he conveniently came up with strep throat. Do you think that I should reciprocate and take him out to dinner, not as friends and family, because he is from New York too? Which way should I roll, Don?
I think you should make the offer and go out. Why don't you take him out? It sounds like he'd be great company.
Oh, he's terrific company. I've been out with him. He's unbelievable. Let me think about it, all right, Boog?
Well, you're going to think about it.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
You're going to think about it. Well, how? Are you going to think about it until Thursday, and then I'm out of town?
Yeah, that's probably what will happen.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah. It's really sad to hear that.
And so now inviting me out to dinner, does that mean old Alligator Arms is going to pay, or how's that work?
Oh, listen,
boy.
I love to pay for people, so I would pay.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
You like
have
McDonald's?
Have a great call. Really, a great call.
I love you guys.
All right,
Hey, can I come on the show again?
Yeah, sure. You could come host it if you'd like.
I'd like to invite myself. I'd like to invite myself on the show.
Well,
again.
if you keep
By the
giving
way,
good radio like this.
I loved the other day the exchange of talking about local broadcasters, and I totally get it. That's another conversation for us. But Michael saying it hadn't happened, it hadn't been going on that recently, and Don said, Michael, it's been 50 years that they've been doing it this way.
It shows you how time flies.
Like, oh, yeah, that's right.
But by the way, what you said on the ESPN wildcard game, I thought it was so great. Yeah, the national broadcast, I'm paraphrasing, national broadcaster in town, we hate your team and we hate the other team too. It's amazing how fans hear you.
That's right.
Amazing.
Oh, my gosh.
Good
Amazing.
stuff.
Thanks, you guys.
Have a great call.
It.
Later, buddy.
All right, that's Jon Sciambi. He and Doug Glanville will do this whole series. The rest of the series, you'll hear it here on 880 ESPN, starting at 4:30 with the pregame, 5 o'clock first pitch from Citi Field. He'll do the remainder of the series. He'll do the NLCS, and then for the second year of the row, he will be the voice of the World Series on ESPN Radio.
Like I said earlier, it's Sciambi.
It's Sciambi.
Thank you.
And Jon Sciambi.